In the previous couple of chapters, I have shown you how to create kitchens in Revit, and something that you may have noticed is that the kitchen workflow depends heavily on the families that you have on offer. So in most cases, you're going to be using either the families that come with Revit, or you might want to find something online, maybe from a manufacturer, using BIM object or Revit City or something like that, and then incorporating those families inside of your project. Now, it's a good idea to have your own specialized set of families that you might want to use in future projects, just because it's really useful to personalize the families, make sure that they fit your own personal needs, and then you can use those in your projects. Now, here on my screen, as you can see, we have the base cabinets, and these are the ones that come with Revit, but here we do have some families that are missing that I would really like to have for my workflow. So these families that I'm going to be creating inside of this chapter, they are going to be available for download, but I still think it's a good idea to show you how I create these families by modifying existing ones, just because you might want to create something on your own, something that's going to work for your project. So it's always a good idea to show you how the whole process goes. So let's get started. The first modification that we're going to be doing to our families, and this is something that we're going to do to all of these families, and that's the modification to the base of our base cabinets. So as you can see here, for these cabinets, just looking at these images, they go all the way to the ground. Now, when it comes to creating kitchens, you really have two options when it comes to the bottoms of your base cabinets. So they can either go all the way to the ground, or they can be lifted up on some legs, just short legs, which will make it easier to clean below the cabinets. Now, you might see kitchens that have one approach or the other, and this is really going to come down to the client's desires or whatever the architect chooses to do in the end. But it's really useful to have the option to switch between this, where the base of the cabinet goes all the way to the ground, and an option where you have legs that are holding the cabinet in place. So what I like to do is to, let's select one of these families. For example, let's start with this family here, and I'm just going to drag it over into Revit, and now we can start playing around with this family. So as you can see, if I select the bottom of this family, we have just a little base, and that goes all the way to the ground. We can double check this if we go to one of the elevations, for example, the front elevation. As you can see, this goes all the way down to the ground level. Now the height of this thing, if I select it, we can get that here. So the extrusion end is set to 100. So the height of this base is 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, which perfectly fits in the whole design of these base cabinets. So what I'm going to do for this particular base is go here to the graphics and go to the visibility setting, which allows you to turn this on and off. Now, when you turn this off, it goes into these gray lines, and when you turn it on, it goes back to black lines. Now, if I turn this off, it's going to be easier to see like this. So when you turn the visibility off, it turns gray, and when you turn the visibility on, it turns black. Now, something that you may have noticed is if we turn the visibility off, it's going to turn off the visibility of this whole upper thing. So what I'm guessing is that the join geometry tool was used here. So what I'm going to do is select this, go back, turn it to visible, go to join, and then go to unjoin geometry, and just make sure to unjoin this part. So now, if we switch this off, as you can see now, only this bottom part goes into gray, and the rest of the cabinet stays created with these black lines, and that's exactly what we want to see. Okay, so the next step, once we have figured out that the visibility parameter over here will only control the part that we're interested in, the next part is, of course, to add an on-off switch for this bottom of the base. So what you want to do is you basically want to select this, go to the visibility parameter on the graphics tab, and then here go to this button on the side that says associate family parameter. So here what you want to do is just click on this button, and that's going to open up the Associate Family Parameter window. Now in this window, as you can see, we really don't have any on-off parameters, so we have to create that. And when I create a new parameter, you're going to get these parameter properties, and the name of this parameter is, let's say, base to ground, something like that. And you can leave it as a type parameter, or you can make it an instance parameter. So I'm just going to leave it as a type parameter and click OK. OK again. And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to add some legs. Now before we add legs, let's select this and turn it off, but as you can see, we can no longer turn it off over here. Now it's controlled by the parameters, and you can access those by going here to the Properties panel and going to Family Types, and that's going to open up the Family Types menu, and here we have all of the parameters. Now here, as you can see, we have base to ground, and we can uncheck that, hit apply, and now this will turn to gray. Click OK, and now we can add our legs. So for legs, what I suggest you do is just go into the ground floor reference level, and then once you're here, you can go to create, we can go to extrusion, and then we can just use a simple circle, add one circle here, maybe turn on the 10 lines for this one. There we go, so we have one circle here. The diameter can be maybe 20 millimeters. I think that's more than enough. Place it just like that. Then you want to select it. You want to go here to the mirror tool using the pick axis option, and then just select the center reference plane. Rotate it to the other side. Then you want to select both of these. And now again you go to mirror, but in this case you go to mirror draw axis line. And then you find the center of this line here, and then you just pull it off to the side. Now this will basically mirror that down to, well, this location here. So now once we have these two, what we can do is go back to modify, and now as you can see, the extrusion end is at 25 millimeters, extrusion start is at 12 millimeters, which is odd, and then the work plane is set to ground level. So we want this to go from ground level, but we want our extrusion to start from 0 and then go all the way up to 100. Hit apply, then we can maybe just hit finish, and then let's go to the 3D view to see what we have created. As you can see here, we have our little legs. Now for these legs, we also have a visibility parameter, and we want these to be turned off when this base is turned on. So how do you do that? Well, you want to select this as well, and then go again here and create a new parameter, but this one, we're going to call this one legs. There we go, make it in type parameter, and then just click OK. So once we have all of this done, we can just click OK, and there we go. So now in order to double check if this is working properly, what you want to do is you want to go here to the option to preview visibility. It's currently set to off, but when you turn it to on, as you can see, you get this little yellow window, and this is basically showing you how this will appear in the real model. So when we open up family types again, if the base to ground is turned off and the legs are turned on, it's going to look like this. And if we just switch it the other way around, it's going to look like this. So we have those two options over here on our family parameters. So in order to complete this modification to the family, we need to do just a couple of more things. The first one is to set up the parameters in such a way that when one of these is turned on, the other one will immediately be turned off. So what I'm going to do is simply go here to the base to ground, and here in the formula area, I'm just going to type in not, and then in parentheses legs, just like this. And when we click out of this, as you can see, this will now be grayed out, and whenever we turn on the legs, this will automatically be turned off, and when we turn off the legs, the base will be turned on. So it's quite simple, just like that. Next, we can just OK out of this. We can select the legs, and then for the material, I think either something chrome or something black. I prefer chrome for these types of legs. So let's just go here to the material, go and set it up. So this will open up the material browser, and then what you want to do is just search for, let's see, chrome. Now here under the project materials, it's quite rare that you can find something like that, but it is going to be available down here in the additional materials. So just find whatever works best for you. In this case, let's go with, I don't know, steel chrome plated, load it in by hitting this little arrow, and then we can just hit apply and then OK, and there we go. Now we can of course test that by going to realistic, and don't be confused if it turns out black. Usually for the realistic mode in Revit 2020 or earlier versions, chrome tends to appear as black, and then in the newer version is Revit kinda represents that a little bit better. But anyways, for now this seems to be looking exactly how we want it to look. And we have our modification to this cabinet pretty much completed. But of course, there's just one more thing. If you want to retain the parametric options that this family has, so if I open up family types again, you're going to notice that we have the option to make this 300mm and 500mm. Now currently it's set to 500mm and everything looks great, but if we switch it to 300mm and hit apply, as you can see, you just want to test this out to make sure that everything is working properly. So in this case, this is working properly, and it is following the family, and it's following the change here. So you might want to kind of try this out. Maybe change the width again, maybe to 600mm. Hit apply. As you can see, as long as these legs are following that cabinet, that means that everything is working properly. Now just make sure to change this type down to 300, hit apply, there we go. And then also what you can do is, let's try this, yes. And then also what you might want to do is to go here and then create a new type. So what I'm going to do is create a new 500mm type and just type in legs slash, just like this. And then a new 300mm type, and then again dash legs. There we go. So what you want to do is for these ones, so for the 300mm type, turn the legs off, hit apply, there we go. Then for the 300mm legs, we want the legs to be turned on, so hit apply. But of course, this one should be set to 300mm. So just type that in here, hit apply, there we go. Then for the 500mm type, let's hit apply just to see. Okay, so this one shouldn't have legs, so let's just uncheck legs, hit apply. That's exactly what we want to see. And then also the 500mm legs, hit apply. And that's exactly what we want to see. So you can just click OK, and then you can save this family. Of course, you can test it out by loading it into a project, which is what I tend to do in most cases. So you just go here to File, you go to New Project, and then for this project, you're going to get the New Project pop-out. And let's go with the architectural template, click OK. Wait for a second, go back to the family, go to Load into Project. And I just want to place it like this in the middle. Go to the 3D view, and then just test it out for a second. So just zoom in a little bit, select it. Here, as you can see, it's the 300mm type. If we go with legs, it shows the legs. The 500mm one, it's with the base, and then the 500mm legs shows the legs again. So we have successfully modified this family to have the ability to either be a cabinet with legs or just a regular base cabinet. So this will give us a lot more versatility when it comes to creating our kitchens. We don't have to think about modifying the family or searching for a different family. We can just use this one. The next modification that we're going to be creating has a lot to do with this base cabinet filler. Now, this is something that I demonstrated in the first project where we create a classical kitchen in Revit. And something that I decided to do to maybe change is not to use this anymore. Now, the reason for this is because it's kind of a waste of space, and also you're not really going to see much of this in real life. Usually you don't see these cabinet fillers. In most cases, you're either going to make an existing cabinet larger or smaller, make it according to the dimension of the kitchen, and then that's how you're going to kind of fill out that extra room. Now, in order to do something like that, what I like to do is to create, or actually to modify one of these existing families in order to have the ability to change their width just on the spot. Now, of course, you're going to keep the kind of the standardized widths and the standardized dimension families, but you want to have this extra family that's going to make it a bit easier for you in order to kind of make that change. So what I'm going to do is select one of the existing families. For example, we can select this one. Let's drag it over here into Revit. And then for this family, what you want to do is go to ground level. And something that you're going to notice is here that we have the width parameter. Now, you can check out the parameters. If you just go here to the family types menu, open that up, and then here we have all of the parameters. Now, this is the width parameter, so I'm just going to select the width parameter and go here into edit that parameter. And as you can see here, this parameter is a type parameter that's being used inside of this project. So this is a built-in type parameter. So what I like to do in these cases is just cancel out of this. And cancel out of this and select this and just delete that dimension. So we have deleted this built-in parameter, and we can just go here and create a new parameter. So just use the align dimension, go from one side off to the other, click here in empty space to create the dimension, hit the escape key a couple of times, select the dimension, and then we can go here to label to add a parameter to that dimension. Here we have many options, but we actually want to create a new parameter. And then this one can be called a maybe adjustable width. And instead of being a type parameter, we're going to make it an instance parameter, and then just click OK. Okay, so once we have that new adjustable parameter, what this is going to allow us to do is to change this family on the spot and change its dimensions so it fits into our in our kitchens, so we can make it smaller or larger, so it can kind of adapt to the customized length or width of the kitchen itself. So if I let's just test this out to see how it works. So we can save this family, and then we can go to File. Let's go to New Project. Let's choose the architectural template for this quick demonstration. Go back to the family, and let's load it into the project. And let's place it now. Okay, so now when we place this family, something weird will happen. As you can see, we get this little grip points on each side of the family, and we can actually adjust the length of this family on each side. So this is going to make it a lot easier for us to adjust this to the size of the kitchen. Now, you don't want to place too many of these because they have to be custom built, and of course that makes them a bit more expensive. So usually you want to use all of those standardized dimensions for these cabinets, and then just add one more that's going to kind of fill out the rest of the room, where you can make it smaller or larger. Something that you will also notice is here in the properties panel we have the adjustable width parameter, and you can actually customize it here as well. So if you've measured out and you know that this is 478 millimeters, you can just hit apply, and then that will be adapted to that dimension. So when you go here to your measure between 2 points, it's going to be, well, exactly that. So it's a really cool option to have this extra family just handy, and you can use this to kind of fill out the width of the the width of the cabinet. Now, something else that you might want to change is, let's go back to the family itself. Here, when we open up family types, we have two standardized dimensions, but in this case, as you can see, we have kind of gotten rid of those standardized dimensions. So what I like to do is just select one of those and then hit delete type. And then for the second one, I just like to go here into rename, and I just like to rename this one at the maybe adjustable width cabinet. And click OK, apply, OK, and there we go. And we can, of course, save this family so we can use it inside of our projects, and it's going to make the whole process a lot easier. In this video, we're going to be talking about corner cabinets. Now, here with the families that come with Revit, we have the corner cabinet angled unit, like this one over here, and this one isn't really that good. Well, at least I don't like it. So this one kind of cuts the corner at 45 degrees, so you can't really, so you can kind of access it through just one door. And this is common, you can see this, but I don't think it's the best use of space, and I don't like that cabinet, that type of a corner cabinet. But something that I saw that I kind of like is this one. This one is also quite common. As you can see, you can kind of fold out these two doors, and then you have this rotating tray in the middle, or you don't have to have that rotating tray, but you can kind of access everything just like this, and it allows you to use up that corner space a lot more efficiently than usual. So this is something that we're going to be creating right now. So in order to create something like this, we have to start off with something. So I'm just going to use this basic cabinet, this one, and then I'm just going to right click and then copy and then paste it here. And then this one will be the base cabinet corner unit, or maybe, yeah, let's just call it a corner unit. There we go. And now let's drag this over into Revit and start modifying it. So as you can see, this is what we have, and if we go to the ground level, this is what that looks like. Now here, as you can see, the little handle is on this side, so what I'm going to do is just maybe extend this a little bit, and then the other side of this cabinet is going to go on this side. Now the width is set to 300 millimeters, which is a bit too much for this cabinet. You want it to be kind of compact. So what I'm going to do is reduce that to either something like 150 millimeters or 200 millimeters. Let's go with 150 for this one. So what you want to do is go here to family types, find the main type, which is this, and then we can just leave it as is. We can think about a name later on, but for now, let's just change the width to 150 and then hit apply. Click OK. And as you can see, it reduces to something that looks like this. I know it looks kind of silly, but well, that's just how we have to do it. So the next thing that we have to do is to add basically the other side over here. So we can go here to create, go to reference planes. We can add one reference plane here in the corner, and then one reference plane here like this. Now, of course, we can add more later on, but for now, let's just stick with this. And now the width or the depth of the cabinet is going to be controlled by this dimension, so we want to add that on this side as well. So what you want to do is you want to go here to the align dimension, go from the edge, which is over here, go to here, place it just like that, hit the escape key a couple of times, and then we can select this, go to label, and just use the same width, or sorry, the same depth parameter, and that's what we have. We can maybe move it up to make everything a bit more visible. Now, of course, we have to adjust the other side, so this should be at the same width parameters. So, of course, let's go here to align dimensions, go from here to here, just like that, hit the escape key a couple of times. Then what you want to do is select this dimension, go to label, and then this is going to be that width parameter, and as you can see, it's going to just move in, and that's exactly what we want to see. So I'm really happy with that. Now for these parameters that are controlling the position of the handle, those we don't really have to mess around with, which is really cool, because it can just stay on that side. That's quite okay, and then it will just open up from that side towards this side. So the next thing that we have to adjust is going to be just the edge here. So as you can see, we do have these reference planes on the inside. That's just be controlling the offset from the cabinet towards this little cabinet door. So what you want to do is just add one of those on this side. So we can go here to create, go to reference plane, and then just add one of those like this. And judging from the front elevation, see, as you can see, it's 19 millimeters. So what you want to do is just go back here to ground floor and then adjust this to 19. And then you can add the dimension here. You don't have to bother with the elevation. So just go from the outside one to the inside one. You always want to go from the one that's fixed to the one that's about to be fixed. So just lock it in place, and there we go. So now once we have the infrastructure created using these reference planes, we can start messing around with the geometry. Now for that, what I like to do is go to the 3D view, select the main part of geometry, and now let's explore it. So when you select it, as you can see, it's called a cabinet, but here it says sweep. So this it was modeled as a sweep. Now if you go into edit, as you can see, it's simply a rectangle on the ground for the path, and then the profile is this over here. Now this is really cool because it's going to make it a lot easier for us to modify this. So what you want to do is just select the path, and then you can double click on that, and now we can edit the path. And then you can just go here back to ground level, and then instead of going just like this, you want to extend it to go all the way to the outside. This part you want to extend here. You can remove the constraints, add new constraints here, and then you want to add just a couple of more lines, one here and then one here. And for both of those, I just move them out of the way a little bit, move them back, and then you can lock it in place. Same thing here, move it out of the way, move it back, lock it in place. This is going to make sure that everything is constrained and parametric. And then finally, you want to use the trim and extend tool to fix this up to corner here and up to corner here. Hit the escape key a couple of times, go into the 3D view, hit finish again. And as you can see, this is now looking like a corner cabinet a bit more. Okay, so once we have that part completed, as you can see, the bottom part adjusted to the length, but it didn't adjust to this because, of course, that kind of goes outside of the boundaries of a simple rectangle. So you want to select that bottom of the cabinet, go into Edit Extrusion, go back into ground level, and just simply add a couple of more lines here and here. Now for both of those lines, again, you move them out of the way a little bit, move them back, and lock them in place. Same thing here, lock it in place. And again, you use trim and extend to corner to fix it up here, and then here as well. There we go. So you can just hit finish now, and we're done with that bottom of the cabinet. Also, we have this base of the cabinet. Now, in one of the previous videos, I show you how to add legs instead of this. You can do that on your own later on, and of course, with the family pack, it will be included. But for now, let's just adjust this base. So go into Edit Boundary. Okay, so let's go to the 3D view. So this, let's just go back again. So select this, go into Edit Extrusion. Okay, there we go. So once we're in Edit Extrusion, we can go to ground level and then adjust this. So you want to go all the way to the outside here, remove the constraints, and then constrain it here again. And again, repeat the same process here, which goes basically from, well, it's a bit on the inside of the edge. It's following this reference plane over here. So what we can do is just measure that. So that's 16 millimeters. And then we can just repeat that here. So go to the outside, just like that. And here, let's just move this temporary dimension to the inside. So that should be 16. There we go. And then you can just use trim and extend to trim and extend this to corner here, and this to corner here. Make sure this one is at least locked in place, and hit finish. There we go. Go to the 3D view. It looks like this. And now finally, the only thing that we have to adjust is the actual door. So this was modeled as an extrusion just like this. So the only thing that we can do is maybe extend it all the way to this side, just like that. We can even go to front elevation and make sure to lock it in place there. Hit finish. And then also what you want to do is go back here, go into create, extrusion again, go to set work plane, go with the pick a plane option, which is going to allow you to select one of the existing planes. You can pick this one, and then we can add another extrusion going from here all the way here, kind of like that. And if you want to align it properly, you can go maybe to left elevation. Is that the left elevation? Or should we go to right? Okay, the right one is the better one to use. So you want to adjust this to the reference plane here, the one that we have. I'll lock it in place, and then on this side adjust it there. You can lock it in place. Up here, adjust it there, lock it in place, and on the bottom again we're going to have some reference planes, so just lock it in place, and we're done. So now let's go back to the 3D view. We can hit finish. And the extrusion will look kind of odd, so you want to select this one. As you can see, the extrusion end is 12.7, so you want to select the new one that we have, and move that to 0, and the end to 12.7, hit apply. There we go, and you just want to join these two up, so go to join geometry, and join them up just like that. So now when you go here, hit the tab key just like that. As you can see, it's going to select the whole element, and also when you take a look at this, it's going to add the material. So because we joined these two up, the material that was set to this part of the door was immediately set to this part of the door. And there we go, we have this really cool corner cabinet. Now looking at it, the access might be a bit too small, so what we can do is just test this out. So let's move it out of the way a little bit, go to family types, and let's change the width to 200, hit apply, and now as you can see it will adjust. So it does look good. Everything seems to be working correctly. We can adjust it even further, maybe make it 2500 or 250. Perfect. So as you can see, you can adjust the how big the doors are or how wide the doors are just by changing that width parameter. And because this is set to, let's set it down to 200, I think that's small enough that it doesn't cause too much trouble to the rest of the cabinets, but it's large enough so you can get most items out. Maybe 2500, let's leave it at 25. Okay, so here for the type name, we can just rename that in the 2500 millimeter. Click OK, apply, OK, and then finally we can save this new cabinet, and we're done. Now this can be used at corners in our new kitchens. In this movie, we're going to be discussing the refrigerator family and some other appliances families that do have these common elements, and how can you modify them or use them in a proper way. So in this case, this is the refrigerator that comes with Revit, the M refrigerator side by side. It has both ice and water here, and I'm just going to load it into an open project so I can place it here. So I've placed it kind of off to the side, so let's maybe move it here to the center, zoom in over here, and as you can see it says, well, it says refrigerator over it, which is really annoying. Also keep in mind that this is currently set to the coarse level of detail. If we set it to fine level of detail, it's going to show both handles as well as can the opening of the door swing, so to speak. Which can be really useful when it comes to designing the interior and just making sure that your kitchen is going to be usable even if somebody opens up the refrigerator doors. You just want to make sure that they don't get in the way or something like that, or they don't bump into something and so on. Also, the refrigerator label can be quite annoying. Imagine if you had a kitchen and you had this big refrigerator sign over it. It would be really annoying, but in some cases you might want to include it. So let's see how can we adjust this. So if I select this refrigerator, you're going to notice that it only has one width, one dimension. And then also here, if we go into the edit type for this family, so if I scroll down here to the instance parameters, we don't really have that many options, but if I go into edit type like this, we do have some options over here. So one of the options is to show the label. So if we uncheck that and then hit apply, as you can see, it's not going to show that refrigerator label, which is really useful. Also here you can edit that, so you can maybe just call it ref, or in some cases what I've seen, people, instead of using refrigerator, they just use something like a little asterisk sign or something like that, and then they show label, so it looks like this. So in some cases you might see something like that, or it might be just refrigerator. So let me just cancel out of this, go back to refrigerator. So you can adjust this to your needs or your desires, but for now let's just leave it like this. Something else that we can see is the fact that we don't really have the option to turn on and off these doors, which is really annoying. So this is one modification, except the kind of turning off of the label, that I like to do to my appliances families. So I think this is really useful, but I want it to be controlled by a switch or a parameter, because I like to use this while the design process and while I'm just testing it out inside of the project. But when I want to kind of complete all of my drawings, all of everything, I might not want to represent this, or you might want to represent it in some sheets and not represent it in others. So anyways, having a button that turns this on and off can be really useful. So what I'm going to do is select the family and then go into edit family. This is that refrigerator family. As you can see, it's quite a nice family. It's been modeled really well, but let's go here to the floor plan, expand that, go to the reference level, expand that as well, and then here you will notice we have that label. Now also something that you can see here is that label is 2.5 millimeter text. And I sometimes go here into edit type and I just make a smaller text or something like that. So I might want to do that in some cases. In this case, let's just leave it as is, and I'm not going to kind of adjust the label. But again, what we did say that we want to adjust are these doors. So select one door, hold the control key, select the other door, and then here we have the visibility for that. It's currently checked on. But what I want to do is go here to the associate family parameter and then create a new parameter, and let's call this one show door swing. And I like to make this an instance parameter so I can turn it on and off for each instance, and also I want that to be shown here in the properties panel for this family. So once I have created that parameter, that's pretty much it. So we can just load it back into the project, override the version, select that refrigerator, and now here we have the show door swing. If we turn that off and hit apply, as you can see now it will show just the refrigerator without that door swing, and of course we can turn it back on whenever we like to do something like that. So I think it's a really good addition to this family to have that option to check it on or off. So that's something that I like to do to my appliances families, any ones that have this door that swings out.